What's up, guys? So we will be talking about Girona today in the video. Girona really shocked the world last season, finishing third in the league, beating Barcelona twice, and obviously qualifying to the Champions League. That it hasn't been something that the team has done before. But this year they have really disappointed everyone. I think they've right now sitting 13th in the league with no Champions League at all. They were eliminated in the league stages. They were also eliminated in the early stages in the Copa del Rey, so right now they only have the focus on La Liga and they don't have too much room to improve based on the performance that we have seen from the team. So today we will be diving a little bit on the why or what has changed for Girona this season and where do I think the things have changed the most. The first point that we had to talk about is the obvious changes in the players. We know that Girona last season sold Dobic to Rome. It also Alex Garcia he went to Bayer Leverkusen. Savinho went to Manchester City back in that loan kind of deal that they have. So those kind of main players that Girona had, also Eric Garcia went to Barcelona back in loan. Those main players that Girona had last season left, and the way that they were replaced probably wasn't the best one. The only one that really was a good replacement could be Crazy, the center back from the Czech Republic. It was the only one that really performed in the way that Eric Garcia was performing last season. But when we look at Mioski, the replacement for Dobic, he has 2 goals in the current season. Brian Hill, Asperilla, they haven't really been performing. They were 2 substitutes in theory for the Savinho replacement and nothing. We had Oriol Romeo thinking that it was going to be the replacement for Alex Garcia. Obviously, they weren't the same profile. That's why they brought Arthur now, which has been performing a little bit better, but nothing compared to the level of the Catalan midfielder last season. So it is basically the level of the replacement that Girona has found in the market weren't really according to the level of the players that they sold at that time. So we had to see that Dobic was fighting for the top scorer of the last season, and you're trying to go to get a striker from Aberdeen in Scotland that he could be had a great potential for the future, but you need somebody that is gonna play in the Champions League and play in the league. And right now your best striker is Estuani that is coming out of the bench. So I think there is a little bit of a failure in the sense of the signings and how the level of these signings have improved the team. They haven't really improved it. They actually made it a little bit worse. Obviously not to the point of getting relegated, but to decrease a big level of the big jump that you did last season, I think. When we look at the numbers, the differences are there. It's something amazing how the numbers can tell you basically the truth in that sense. We look at the points per game last season, they were averaging 2.13, which is a great number. They also finished third, obviously. They let Barcelona pass them at the end of the season, but that doesn't take the big achievement that Girona made last season getting to the Champions League. But this season, as I said before, they are sitting 13th. They are averaging 1.2 points per game. So that is basically a tie more or less per game, which is something that Girona, if they want to get to that Europe position and kind of maintain the status that they gained last season with big transfers, with European football in Montilivi, they really need to get better at getting points. And obviously, when you do these kind of things, there has to be a difference in between the goals that you score, the goals that you are conceding, and I think Girona has a little bit of both. Last season they scored 85 goals in the 38 games, which is an average of 2.24 goals a game, and this season they have scored only 30-35 in 1.2 games, in 1 point goals per game, which is a great difference. Obviously there is some games still to play, but they are not going to get neither close to those 80 goals that they scored last season. And when we look at the goals conceded, thinking, okay, the defense did change a little bit. Jan Couto left, but you still have Blind, you still have Eric Garcia, Miguel Gutierrez, you have Krejci that has been performing okay, but David Lopez isn't the substitute that you needed to play there. Arnau Martinez hasn't been playing greatly either, and that gets you to last season conceding 46 goals, which is 1.1 per game, and this season you're already at the same kind of numbers with 10 games to go. So it's kind of showing the differences and how the signings can make such a great impact, and also in the goals conceding we have to take care of Gazzaniga. Gazzaniga has been the same goalkeeper last season and this season, and he hasn't been performing the same. We can see that in an amount of mistakes that he has committed that has made Girona concede a goal. It's a fair amount of mistakes that a goalkeeper of the highest level in Spain or in the Champions League can be conceding, and basically that's what is getting Girona at these stages of La Liga not being able to compete for the Europa League positions, that actually this year is maybe easier than any other year because Spain will have those 5 Champions League positions, and then it'll end up in the 8th position with the Conference League. When you were watching Girona last season, a lot of people would like to watch Girona because it was a really entertaining game to watch. Any game that you watch, it was a joy playing against the Atletico de Madrid. I remember there was a 4-3 or something like that with Ivan Martin scoring in the last minute. The game against Barcelona in Montjuic, it was also very good, a 2-4 I think it was. Other than the Real Madrid games that were the only ones that would told them, okay, we are the leaders in the league and you are not gonna win the league. But it was a super entertaining with Savinho, with Sigankov, Miguel Gutierrez, Alex Garcia. All of them were super competitive within each other, but this season has been a completely different environment. Like, you see kind of the same players. You see Miguel Gutierrez, Ivan Martin, that they were probably one of the main guys in last season as well, but they don't have the same kind of compromise and the same kind of feelings about how to play with each other. Obviously the numbers of possession that they were having, because they haven't been really comfortable in the style of playing that they have dropped for having almost 60% to now around 50%, and that 50% doesn't really get you to anywhere because the shots that you have created aren't as important as they were last season. As I said before, the goals almost dropped by half, so that possession doesn't really take you anywhere. And it's important to classify that in the Champions League. Champions League, they only scored 2 to 3 goals, more or less. I think it was 3 goals. And the main game that you can highlight for Girona, it was the game in the Parc des Princes against Paris Saint-Germain, where Girona had the 0-0 against the last minute where Paris Saint-Germain scored. And it's probably the highlight of the Champions League, but there are games against Feyenoord that you could have won. Girona has a team that should beat Feyenoord, in my opinion. And seeing the level of competitivity in Holland has to be different from the level of competitivity in Spain. So I think Girona needs to be a little bit looking forward for a moving in the summer transfer window, because the transfers that they brought this season really didn't perform. I don't see, maybe Asperilla is the only one that can develop a little bit on the future, but I don't see Miowski doing something more than what he did this year unless he explodes and starts scoring goals like crazy. But Brian Hill is someone that has been the same one when he left Sevilla, he went to Tottenham, he's been the same kind of guy. And then the centre back from the Czech Republic, I think he's doing very good, and I think he could be a very good centre back for the future. But then who is your midfielder? Who's gonna be your new Alex Garcia? Who's gonna be your new Savinho? Unless Asperilla starts performing now, it is something that needs to be looked at, and I think Girona has room for improvement, but also has the resources for it, because they really taught you how to sign good players with this Manchester City Girona kind of a link that they have. Signing Dobbik is nothing easy, and maybe they try to replicate the same with Miowski, but it obviously didn't work the same way. So I hope Girona kind of gets back to those winning ways in maybe this end of the season, if these signings that we've talked about start to perform a little bit better, with not having 3 games or 2 games per week. That probably has affected them a lot, because you have to understand that Mitchell is not used to having only 1 or 2 practices to get the team used to a Real Madrid or against a Barcelona or even against a Getafe. It's the same kind of drill. You need to be understanding who are you playing against and practice it throughout the week, and having that Champions League game in the middle of the week really cut them in half, and probably has made Mitchell, the first one, and the team, the second one, struggle on how to plan to get to those values and those positions that they were getting last season. So I hope this you guys like this video, and I hope also that Girona will get further in the league this season, and we'll see many transfers in the summer that will get Girona in a better position next season. Sorry.